Bob Waller talked about the phases of the development of his own investment in quality at Mayo. He talked about the current phase. I think he called it the getting down to business phase or getting serious phase. That was sort of what I was thinking as I was preparing my remarks for this year. We've laid a great groundwork. We've got some serious work to do. Evan Handler made it even more serious, reminding us about why. And so the theme could be getting down to business, getting about the hard work. But that would be a tough subject to deal with it in a plenary session. It would be a very serious talk in which we'd be going into some pretty technical matters, because getting down to business means you really have to manage the care we give. So I decided that instead I would talk about fourth grade girls soccer. Could I have the first slide on? This is the Angels. I am their coach. I am hopelessly confused about where healthcare is headed, and so fourth grade girls soccer is a little easier to deal with. If you want a refund, you can go out and form a line outside the door. Now, here are some basic principles of fourth grade girls soccer. First, its central aim is to build self-esteem, basic skill building, and fun, all of which follow just behind winning at all costs. The second rule is that coaches are in charge of snacks. The third rule of fourth grade girls soccer is that parents of different teams have to stand on opposite sides of the field for the good of all concerned at games. And the last rule, the fourth rule, is that all teams have to be named after a benign supernatural creature like angel or spirit or pixie, or after a small rodent like gerbil or squirrel or chipmunks. But part of the rule is not rats. That was how I was prepared to become a soccer coach. Now, my motivation to be a soccer coach was to put behind me my entire childhood of athletic incompetence. One of my memories is of my friend Jimmy, when I was about 11 years old, walking up to me in the 8th inning of a Little League game. This is a true story, in which my record of strikeouts throughout my Little League career had remained unblemished. I had just returned to the bench, and I remember Jimmy walking in front of me and looking me in the eye, and very gently and with real curiosity, he asked me this question: "Why do you do this?" At any rate, I determined this year that I was going to lead the Angels well. And I wanted to go through my strategy. My first strategy was laissez-faire. They were empowered. They were great kids. They're enthusiastic. They all bought shin guards early. My job, I thought, was to let them loose to do what they came to do. I empowered them. Here was my speech at the beginning of the first game, which was against the Pixies. I said, "You're professionals. You know what to do. Go for it. Go out and do it." We lost. Pixies 4, Angels 1. Well, I decided to switch strategies. I thought, well, maybe these girls, these women, are not as motivated as I had thought. We needed a results orientation. So I began repeatedly pointing at the scoreboard in Game 2. I gave them feedback. If they scored a goal, I yelled from the sideline, "You scored a goal, you scored a goal." And then if they missed, I yelled, "You missed, you missed. Next time, don't miss." We lost. Gremlins 2, Angels 1. No more Mr. Nice Guy. The parents were on my back. People were making unkind analogies to the Red Sox, which is really hard in Boston. Girls began bringing homework to practice. We were in a real crisis. So I decided it was time for performance pay. But you're not allowed to pay fourth graders, so I used Hershey bars. I put them at stake at halftime. No score, no Hershey bar. If you score, you got a Hershey bar. It was simple, it was direct, it was informative, and we lost. Marmots 3, Angels 2. I figured out that the problem was it was insufficiently motivating. We needed individualized report cards. Individual recognition would work. What we did was we posted at each quarter the score by individual player. Now, we protected their anonymity. We gave a feedback sheet in which Lauren was called player A and Meg player B, and we used a yellow highlighter to highlight the individual, so Meg knew who Meg was, but not Lauren. The results were immediate, but unanticipated. Lauren vomited. Julia's mother called me to say that Julia had a sore throat and should have her score adjusted. Then I noticed everyone was trying to score. Nobody would pass, so I started giving half credits for assists, in which case everybody passed because it was easier to assist than to score. No one would play goalie. When I said I really did value goalies, they said, yeah, right, look at your score sheet. Goalies don't score. They insisted that I case mix adjust the individual scores according to the competence of the other team or the weather, so that they would say, you know, if the other team was harder to play, their score should be adjusted upward. I said, you don't get the point. I said, we have to beat them no matter who they are. I decided to move to a different strategy when Lizzie's father, who was a construction contractor, showed up at Game 5 with a bulldozer saying he was going to level the playing field. We lost. Guidelines were the answer. I realized I couldn't possibly have been so stupid, that we needed to standardize our plays. So this was our first guideline. Do you have the ball? If no, get the ball. If yes, shoot. We revised it, pass, shoot. And then we benchmarked the gerbils. They used branching logic. And we lost. About the 8th game, I began to learn something. It started when Rebecca came up to me at halftime, and she said, I'm sick of losing. I was sipping my cappuccino, and I said, oh yeah? If you're so sick of losing, why not win? She said, I'd like to, but we need some coaching. I said, what do you mean? I've been coaching you for 2 months. She said, well, not exactly. I mean, do you know how to play soccer? I said, you're the player. It was a little sweaty under my collar. I said, I'm just the coach. Lizzie said, well, why are you the coach? I mean, you're the coach and you don't know how to play the game? Sure I do, I said. I point out the scoreboard, I motivate you, I give out Hershey bars, I make guidelines, I tell you pass, 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 shoot. That's my job. She said, you don't get it. She said, it doesn't help me when you yell pass, 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 shoot. You have to tell me how. How do you play soccer? So that got me thinking. How do you play soccer? In my previous speeches at the National Forum, as Joel mentioned, I've talked a bit about why we need to do what we do, improve, and I have talked about what we could improve. I set out 11 aims in a speech a couple of years ago, areas where we could improve our performance. We know scientifically how to do it. But the big lesson, really, I can share with you, it's the same as I learned from my 4th grade soccer team. To improve soccer, you have to know how to play soccer. To improve care, you have to know how to deliver care. To an extent a lot greater than I realized until quite recently, the job of envisioning the new system of work, the job of knowing and explaining how to do better work, is non-delegable. That is, just as it is the burden of leaders, the duty and privilege of leaders, to clarify organizational aim, to insist upon performance, it is also their burden to insist upon major principles of design for the system of work. Leaders have to be prepared to assert not only what must be accomplished, but how it can be accomplished. Now, I don't think that's a comfortable message to give to leaders. I think a lot would like to rely on much simpler notions of empowerment or scorekeeping or feedback, in which the workforce, clinicians and others, are expected to invent the new ways to work. This, in my opinion, is not an effective route to the redesign of the system that we need. The burden of my talk is going to be this. Healthcare leaders today have to be able to coach on the actual method of work.